Okay, I think we should start. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lakatos. I'm a Mozilla Reps mentor slash council member right now. What that means is I'm a volunteer who helps other people volunteer. I'm going to talk this morning today. I'm going to talk about Firefox DevTools. No, they don't mean Firebug. We actually have DevTools baked into the browser. Because I'm really old, and everything I'm going to do on that laptop. I'm going to take a seat, and then we can start. So let's see, how many of you in the room are web devs? Okay, a fair amount of people. JavaScript on a regular basis, on a daily basis for work? Okay. Anyone used Firebug before? Okay, that's good. And anyone uses the DevTools we have in Firefox right now? Still good enough. Okay, still good enough. So I'm going to show you how they look. Basically, this is it. This is DevTools. You have a lot of different tabs, a lot of different tools. How do you power them up? My favorite way is we have the shortcut. I have a Mac, so that's Command-Alt-K, which opens up the console. If you don't want the console, the easiest way is just right-click, inspect element, and that's going to power up the inspector. If you know exactly the tool you want, you have a hamburger menu right there, which says developer, and then you get the list. Or you've got somewhere in here, in the menu bar, something that says tool, and then web developer, and you've got the list. I'm going to power up the editor, the inspector, sorry. And this is my attempt at a blog running on local host. And I'm not really happy with what I have here. For example, the button, it kind of feels like it's just one color, so I wanted to, I don't know, be red or something, match the style of the website. How would I do that? Well, I go right click here and then inspect element. But as you saw, when I did right click, I clicked it as well. So it's not that easy for me. Luckily, the inspector has something called CSS selectors. If you guys don't know what CSS selectors are basically, they're basically a way, the same way CSS identifies an element to apply a style to it, you can use it here. So I happen to know my button name is MDL-button, so that's my class. And when I search for it, you're gonna see I have 4 buttons in the page, but mine isn't highlighted. That means I have to keep hitting enter until mine shows up. And now I have it selected here, I have it highlighted there. What I want to do is basically change the color of it, but as you see, I have a lot of properties, a lot of CSS properties for the button, and that's a common use case when you do web development. So I want to just filter out styles that have to do with color. I'm gonna see right away that I have here the color. Now, sadly, the color is in a red, green, blue mode right there, and I have no idea what that means. I have to go to an editor online and basically figure out what it does. But if I shift click this little dot right there that shows me the color, it's gonna show me different representations of the color. For now, I only have three for example, but other colors, like if I go and play and say I want this to be red, well, if I do red, I'm gonna have 4 different representations of the color. Now that helps me, so I want a red button, but looking at my button and my links, the shade of red is quite a bit different, so I don't really know how to do that. I could basically try to take a screenshot and get the color picker in there, and that's what I used to do for a really long time. When I started development, when I started developing, or debug mode was basically this. Or debug mode was basically this. So DevTools like this weren't really a thing. But right now, I can go to the color, I can click it, and the color picker shows up, and I can try to match it and see if I can find it. But seeing as how I'm half colorblind, I'm never going to be able to match that in time, ever. But I have this little color picker here that allows me to go and hunt for the color of this and choose it. And now my button looks the same as the links in my blog. Now I have another issue. When I hover over it, I get this shadish color, but when I try to inspect it, I can't basically, because whenever I move the mouse out of the button, the style is gonna disappear. But I've got a fix for this. I can just right click on my element and I can force certain states on it. For example, active focus, or the one I'm looking for, which is hover. And now I have this this style that always shows up. I don't have to hover over it and then maybe try to be faster than the browser. So I have this hover style which is forced. I can go in and say my background color should be white. I don't want the background color. And now, well, now I can't really test it because I want to see that I have no flicker when I hover and stuff like that. That's why I can. So if I have something forced, I'm going to see a little indicator here. Otherwise, it would be really hard to figure out which one's forced and which one's natural. So I'm going to go and right click here and deselect hover, basically making it work like a normal button. And I see when I try to hover the button, nothing happens exactly how I want it. Now I showed you what's to do with HTML and CSS, but that's basically just a small part of the web. You guys want to see JavaScript, right? That's the good stuff. For JavaScript, I have this little console here, and if you look at, I'm console logging something in here, but it doesn't look really well. Like I've got some dots in there. I kind of want to get rid of, make it pretty. I can go to the debugger. And in the debugger, I'm going to see every piece of JavaScript the page loads. As you can see, it's quite some JavaScript files. And this is just the happy case, the happy case where I have only one library into my website, which is material. If I have more, I'm going to have a lot more JavaScript files. I know I only have one JavaScript file I wrote, which is the search file, but I'm not really sure about console and how they log in there. So I kind of want to search through the whole set of scripts after search. I have a search bar here, and the cool thing about it is it's prefixable. So I can basically add a prefix that tells the dev tools where to look for. So I can search in all files, search just for function definitions, find in this file, or go to a specific line, or filter variables. I'm gonna go to my file, and I'm gonna try to find in my file. So for that, I'm gonna have to add hash and then console, and it's gonna go to the console log instances I have in there that it can match. So if I go here now, what I'm showing you today is kind of targeted to be on par with Chrome DevTools. And I'm going to point out differences because we're playing fair and we're interested in people getting better at what they do and using the web better. Joanna talked about Web Compat. This is one of the biggest tools that helps you out when you try to figure compat issues. So it helps if you know what's the difference between one dev tools and the other. And when that one doesn't work, you can switch to the other, and so on and so forth. Now, we don't have live editing in the debugger. If I want to change something, I need to go to my editor and actually go in there and change what I'm seeing. Okay, and now if I refresh and if I pray hard enough to the gods of Wi-Fi, everything should still work. You can do it. Yeah, you can do it. So now it's done. But like looking through the file, it has like 200 lines or something. It would have been hard to just hope I found the thing I was looking for on first try. Now I'm gonna try to set up a debug point. Basically, I'm gonna try and see what happens with my data on the fly and stop execution on it. You can see, like a lot of people say I'm a tool, but today I'm an object. So I'm gonna try to debug the me object in here. You can see I have a debug point. When I clicked on it, I've set a debug point on it. If I refresh, it should stop execution of that. I get a side panel with a lot of things. You can see I'm undefined right now, and you can see like the value of this for the whole thing. In this case, it's all the way up to window. I don't have a lot of nested code and stuff like that. But if you're debugging a function that's 3 levels deep, this kind of helps you. You can see the options I've ran my function with, which is the init function. You can see the arguments that were passed into the function. You can see a lot of other things, and if you don't like this, you can add your own expressions to watch for. For example, I'm gonna watch for me.name, which is gonna be undefined. Me is undefined, right? If I want to skip over, like step over, it's gonna set to the next one and the next one, the next one. And now everything is gonna work for me because me is undefined. I got through all of it, and the debugger updated it on the fly with that. Now we used to have a bug with removing debug points. I'm gonna hope I installed the right version this morning. One of the problems in playing around with Firefox every day is I don't know what version I have. So I'm gonna hope this is the current version. I need a new laptop. Okay, so I was able to remove the debug point. Now if I refresh, it's gonna refresh for me automatically. Everything should work smoothly. There should be no stopping the execution. Everything works okay. You see, my console log doesn't look like a normal console log. So if I try to log like this, it has no color, no text, and that's because there's a new console syntax which basically allows you to add metadata to your console. So I'm using this in my code, and it looks like this. So I hope you guys in the back are able to see that. But the new implementation allows for commas in it. So when I started with this, and when console log first started, you used to do things like linking things with a plus. You would log like I am, and then a plus, and then an object, and then a plus, and then some more, and then some more, and then some more. Now the only problem with this, Yona has some t-shirts, we're gonna give them away. Anyone knows what this is gonna print out in the console log? Anyone knows what's gonna log? Like
object.
I'm sorry?
The entire object. Okay, no.
Object people.
Yes, type of the object.
The lady in the back with the hand raised.
I am and object.
Let's see. Yeah, so again, even though Yona keeps insisting I'm a tool, today I'm an object. You guys are gonna grab t-shirts. Meet us at the booth later. We have t-shirts for you guys. This isn't helping me right now, right? I have no idea what's in there, but I need to be able to inspect the whole object. And if I want to do that, now I can replace this with a simple comma. And that's what this is gonna do. It's gonna print out the object in a way that I can inspect it. So I see the whole object. Now this is the happy case when I don't have that many properties. I know I'm a simple guy. I don't have that many properties, so everything is listed here. Otherwise, it's gonna get truncated. But I can click on the object, and the side panel appears with everything that's in the object. And that's because of the new console log syntax that allows you to do this. You can do a lot more. You can do string templates and stuff like that. That's what I'm doing with the other stuff. I'm doing string templates, and that's an ES6 feature. If you guys haven't looked into ES6 or 7, that's definitely a try. We have some of them implemented in Firefox. Some of them work in DevTools. If you guys find anything that's missing, ping me on Twitter. Basically, somewhere in there I have my Twitter handle. Penguin, Twitter, we can log a bug, we can talk with the development team, and we can basically fix it and make it better. Now I showed you a bit of JavaScript, a bit of CSS, and a bit of HTML, but that's not what the web page does entirely. Sure, that's what's running, but in order to run all that, you have to go and get it from somewhere. And that has to do with network. So the way network works, or HTTP requests work, is you go to a server. First you go to the DNS, you find the address of the server, you go to the server, you do a handshake, you get the data, and then the data gets back to you. You JZip it or unzip it or whatever, and then you run it in the browser, and the browser renders it. So right now, I showed you what you can do, and you have control only on the rendering part of things. When you create a website, that's the only thing you control. Everything else you can optimize for, but you can't really control the network. So you have to, if there's a study out there that says if a page takes more than 2 seconds to load, it's considered slow, and a big part of the people on the page are gonna move away from it because they think it's either broken or too slow for them to even matter. Yona, I think, talked about a bit about this on the web compat track. But if you're a web developer and you care about your website, you need a way to inspect your network. Now we have this network panel in here which shows me every request my page made. What's cool about it is gonna show me sizes about the stuff I downloaded. Like nowadays, a regular page is about 5 megabytes, and with the Romanian internet connection, don't get me wrong, that's one of the things I miss about Romania. I moved away a while back, but that's one of the things I miss. But 5 megabytes on another connection in another country, that's a lot. That takes a while to load. For example, Xcode, right, downloads for us in about 20 minutes, so it's a smoke break. But if you go to Bangladesh, for example, that's gonna be a week's worth of praying and hoping and trial and error. So a web page should be small. Now the problem is you have no idea how big a web page is because there's 2 sizes involved in it. There's the size you transport, and then there's the size you have on disk. Because you're going to transfer zipped files or JZip compressed files, which are going to be decompressed on your local machine. Now you see a lot of the things I have in here have the same sizes, the same transport and on disk size, because I'm serving them straight from the disk. I'm serving from localhost. But some of the things I'm going out there and getting, for example, the material CSS, it's 6-7 times bigger. So I'm transporting 20 kilobytes, but on disk I have 140. Now the problem is if I don't optimize for that, if I don't compress it on the server, I'm going to transfer 140 kilobytes, and that's how I find out basically where I can optimize my website to make it load faster instead of making my users go away. One of the other things it shows you exactly the connection times. Like, there's only a limited number of connections your browser can do for you, so it shows you in batches how long everything took. If I go and click on something like I want for analytics, in here I'm gonna have a tab that says timings. That's gonna show me exactly all the steps involved in the whole HTTP GET process, how long it took. So you can see my DNS was super fast, and connecting and sending my request to the server took virtually nothing. But I waited, and the receiving part of it took virtually nothing. But the waiting around for the server part, that took like forever. And now this is something you can optimize, because a lot of the time you're gonna waste either on the receiving end or on the waiting end. And what you can do to fix this, for example, Google should, but I think that's too cheap to do it, is have CDNs or data servers closer to where I am right now. Because for me to go to Google right now, it's going to wait around, the server isn't powerful enough. But if it's my website, I can just buy more virtual space or buy more virtual machines and cut down the waiting time to a manageable degree, and so on. These little things kind of add up, and when you shave 2 seconds out of a website, that's quite of a big deal. One of the other things that I'm looking at when I do things like this, when I do my basically day-to-day job, I do entertain the idea of a day job. I kind of have to pay the rent, so I'm a web developer. I look at I look at storage because a lot of the websites now have all kinds of local storage, from local storage, session storage, IndexedDB, and so on and so forth. But the main problem for me are cookies. I'm a freak about cookies. Everybody stores cookies, but the worst part is cookies are used to track me through third parties and stuff like that. So I always try and go and see who's storing cookies, what cookies are being stored, and so on and so forth. My website doesn't store that much. Only Google stores something to track analytics. But if I go to let's go to a random page like google.com and see the amount of cookies they have. Okay, so maybe a bit more, Now, sometimes cookies are used, like sometimes websites won't work without cookies, and some cookies are good. But some of them, I just want to mess with it, because if I remove cookies, the next time I'm gonna go and basically visit the page, cookies get rewritten. But if I just modify existing cookies, they stay broken, never work, and the website, until they expire, the website won't try to fix them. So I can go, I can actually see the cookies that I have in there, and I can go on them, and I'm gonna see everything about them, metadata and stuff like that. But if I double click on them, I can edit. Basically, I can edit everything about them. So I can just say no, good, bad. Now I use this to play around with Google, but sometimes you do use cookies in your application, so you're gonna need to go and look at the types of storage you're using. There's more than one. Everything is in there. Everything you need to basically know to work with storage is going to be there helping you out. Some of the things, so the way Firefox works is it gets released every 6 weeks. But DevTools and Firefox DevTools is a thing that's being actively developed. So, and I basically can't wait 6 weeks to get to play with something new or to get to use something I really want. Firefox has more than one version, more than one channel. There's beta, there's Aurora, there's nightly, but there's something specially made for developers which is called Firefox Developer Edition, which kind of has the it has a stable version of Firefox, but with the latest version of DevTools. Basically, everything that's kind of working in DevTools is gonna be shipped in there.
The irony that you're invited to try the new Safari.
Yeah, and well, it's the tools I use. It's the tools I use. No, I don't want Safari. I like this. So I have this. Now, if you look at this, you're gonna see it looking kind of familiar with Firebug. That's because we a lot of people kind of felt nostalgic. Firebug was developed by us with a bunch of other people, but lately we've ramped down Firebug development and we've focused a lot more on the DevTools, on the native DevTools in the browser. But a lot of people were nostalgic about it, including me, so we kind of missed the whole look and feel of Firebug, and we created a theme for Firebug. There's this little settings section in the DevTools that allows you to switch themes, for example, dark, light. And Firebug, the reason I have two different themes on two different versions is because I mostly use both at the same time, and it's easy for me to instantly recognize which version of the browser I use. Because other than that, there's not a lot of visual cues to figure it out. And you're gonna see I have some things disabled here, some DevTools disabled here because I don't use them on a daily basis. There's quite a lot of them. I think the newer ones are web audio and stuff like that. Sadly, I don't get to play with web audio lately as much as I want, but if you want to try out more than the DevTools that are shown in here, you just have to go to settings and then you get a list of DevTools. One of the things I do use from the settings page is I disable HTTP cache when the DevTools is open. The problem I have with HTTP cache is at some point when I still had my attempt at a blog on WordPress. WordPress has a lot of caching, so when I changed something, I basically refreshed 10 times and I saw no change. It's kind of Einstein's definition of sanity reversed. kind of doing different things and seeing the same result over and over again. And that's because of caching. That's because the browser basically goes to your server, and every request you make has a caching suggestion attached to it that says, hey, cache this for, I don't know, a month, because I'm not gonna change it. But that doesn't help me when I work on, like, it helps my users on a regular basis because they don't have to download the same thing over and over again. But it doesn't help me as a developer who I want to, you know, iterate fast, fail, and then basically fix it in the end. But still, I kind of want it in a timely fashion. So we created this, which basically disables caching when the toolbox is open on a page. When the toolbox is closed, caching still happens. There's a lot of other things you can check out in here. I'm gonna let you figure it out for yourselves. And if you have questions, I'm gonna be around, and then I'm gonna be down at the booth. One of the other things I've seen a rise in interest in, because it's basically being improved tenfold in the last 3 months, is our performance tab, which basically allows you to measure performance, not just see how long it takes. This actually needs a recording, so I'm gonna need to access a web page. So the way the performance tab works is I'm gonna do a recording of the memory being consumed and the execution thread. I'm gonna do something with it. For example, I refreshed or something, and I'm gonna stop my recording, and then I'm gonna see exactly what happened at specific time intervals. I'm gonna see how my frame rates, my frames per second increased and decreased right there. I'm gonna try to zoom this in. Okay, so I can see my my frames per second, which actually helps me figure out that I have a smooth website. Now you're gonna see I have gaps in there, and the gaps happened exactly the 2 times I refreshed the page. That's when the page started to get laggy. But that basically tells me I have an old laptop that needs replacing. I can see whatever happened on the execution thread, like I can see when garbage was collected, I can see where cycle collection happened, and the whole memory cycle, the whole memory graph was reduced, and I can see interesting things like layout being redone, or the encountering of a script tag that needs to be loaded, or whenever he had to recalculate style. For example, I can see here I have 2 recalculate tiles, one after the other. That means I was too lazy to basically merge all my CSS into one, and he's gonna have to do this over and over and over again, and I should basically merge everything into one. Now, performance helps me. There's different ways to look at this if you're not into waterfall, or you can see the call tree or the frame chart, which I think on a small screen isn't really helpful. I usually use the waterfall view, let's call it view. Now you can do this. I'm for the purposes of this demo, I'm only recording once. But when you usually use it in production, or when you actually want to get something meaningful out of it, you should record it at least 10 times. Because your website is gonna have a freak accident and I don't know, run garbage collection faster or slower or whatever. So you should have a representative data set for it to make statistical relevance and sense. And I think that's everything I wanted to tell you about DevTools today. I do urge you to go in here and play with it. Don't worry, that's nothing you can break, and if you can break it, Jonas probably gonna give you a t-shirt and be happy about it because you found a bug. If you have questions, now would be a good time for that.
Is there a throttling stuff?
Throttling?
Yes.
I think there should be throttling now. The only problem is you can throttle multiple things. You can throttle CPU and you can throttle network. I think we only have the network throttling in there somewhere. The only problem is I don't use throttling, so I have no idea how to do that. But we have the Mozilla Developer Network,